Okay, we continue with Rambam Hilchos Chanukah. All right, so we are in Perek Daled Halacha Hey. We do not light Neros Chanukah before the sun goes down. Rather, with the Shkia, we do not go later, we do not go earlier. Okay, so the thing to be medayik over here is bishlam alo machri, because of course the chatchila should light as soon as the zman comes, right? Even though you have leeway, you shouldn't lechatchila wait. That's pasha. The lo adlik madlik, the Gemara says. You say the zman that if you didn't light yet, still light. Mashma, of course, you have to light at the beginning, right? So lo machri is pashat, right? The Ram's talking lechatchila, but here's the thing: velo makdimim. This is interesting, right? Let's say a person has to go on a trip. So could he light all right, so let's say it should at least be after Chatzos Hayom, let's say. And you put in a super, super big candle, like a yortzeit candle, lights for 24 hours. Light, Asher Shom Mitzvot Tzivanu, Ladik Ner Shel Chanukah, and it'll burn till even a half an hour after Tzeis Rabbeinu Tam. It's a very big candle. The Rambam's mashma, it's like you did the mitzvah shelo b'zman chiyuva. It's like eating, since hadlaka also mitzvah, right? Which we'll probably get to later in this parak. Hadlaka also mitzvah. So since hadlaka also mitzvah, that's the Maisa. That's the Maisa mitzvah. That's the Maisa mitzvah. So it's like lighting when it's not the zman yet of not mishatishka chama is like eating matzah on Sukkot. It's shelo b'zman chiyuva, right? That's what it sounds in the Rambam. It sounds in the Rambam that if a person's going on a trip, right? So I think I don't. You check me on this. Like I say, we have no other books in front of us other than the Rambam, and the ikar is to try to get to what the Rambam's saying. So one could say like this, well, listen, after Plag HaMincha, it's Zman Marif, right? So let's be Meiko, and you can light Neros Chanukah after Plag HaMincha, right? Especially if you've done Mincha before. And I don't know if there are poskim that say that or not. I vaguely remember that there are those who say that. Daven Mincha before, then Eitzi, you have to travel, so Daven Mincha before Plag HaMincha, and after Plag HaMincha light. And I'm not saying that that's the halacha, but I vaguely remember hearing something like that. And Rambam's telling you no, just because you could daven Marav doesn't make it the Zman of Neros Chanukah. The Zman of Neros Chanukah is velo makdimin. So Shabbos, okay, so Shabbos and a chinami, Yev Shar B'lav Hachi. The Rambam's not telling you to be Machal Shabbos, but en a chinami, the Rambam would tell you light Somach l'Shkia, can't light at Shkia or after Shkia. And that's the way we do it. When it comes to Zman, we light Chanukah candles, and right after we light Shabbos candles, because Shabbos candles, even though it doesn't have to be this way, it represents being Makabel Shabbos. So we do it. It's okay. The Rambam, of course, the Rambam's going to disagree with that. If the Rambam's not asking you to be Machal Shabbos, I don't think the Rambam's asking you to go anywhere near Chilul Shabbos, but that's shiny Erev Shabbos Delad Yev Shar B'lav Hachi, but en achinami. Just because Shabbos is going to come in, you're going to light after Plag HaMincha. And it sounds like, to me, it sounds like that you have a real problem if you want to do Tosefes Shabbos. You want to be Makabel Shabbos early. You shouldn't do it during Chanukah. That's what it sounds like to me. Right, because you're going to lose the mitzvah adlakas ner Chanukah because you're going to have to light beforehand, and you're lighting, doing the ikar ma'isa hamitzvah adlakas mitzvah shelo b'zman chiyuva. So okay, so it's not, so you can't light at shkia, right? You can't light ela im shkiyasa. So you have to do it samach l'shkia. So during the week you could do it im shkiyasa mamish, and there's no problem. Shabbos, you have to do it, samach l'shkia, right? Because, that's the hechrach, right? What do you go? Tell me another pshat in the Rambam. Right? Or tell me what the Rambam would say. Otherwise, he's talking about enachanami, be mosachol, that you don't have a problem of Shabbos. You have to mamish light at shkia, but not before, zikr not before. Shabbos, right? So you light samach l'shkia because Ev Sharbalav Hachi. Okay, fine. But to light a lap, I would say even after Plaga Mincha, it's much from the Rambam. You did the mitzvah shelo b'zman chiyuvel, right? It's like lighting Chanukah candles on Sukkot. It's not. That's what I think. This is a very important Ram. V'lo makdimin, even if you put in a lot of shemen, he says lo makdimin stam, right? Right, and I think well, first of all, it's never happened. First of all, we don't have this problem so much. In Australia, they might have this problem where the seasons are reversed. But you got to get out of Australia anyway. They said in front of Sydney, famous Sydney, at seashell-shaped theater or whatever it is. Gas the Jews. They should get the hell out of Australia anyway. There's an interesting tshuva from Tzvi Pesach Frank to also someplace in South America where the seasons are reversed. So I think that they claim to have a problem with the Mayim Shalonu, that the waters are very hot at that time because they're not coming out of winter, they're coming out of summer. And the natural, so the Mayim Shalonu, even if you take it, samach l'shkia, and you let it cool down all night long, it's still hot. So the Pesach Frank gives them a heter to use cool it, put into the freezer and artificially cool it. Because the waters are hot, that time of year. So he says, the Rosh should help you. You should go, move to Eretz Yisrael or someplace which has seasons like Eretz Yisrael. That's where Jews were meant to live. That's what he writes at the end of that tshuva. I saw it years ago, many years ago, but as I remember it. So I'll call upon him. So here, what I meant to say is, we live in the northern hemisphere, right? So Shabbos comes in early. So who's the nut who's going to light Plaga Mincha time? Because we're barely ready in time for Shabbos. Forget about Tosefes Shabbos. Forget about the Tosefes Shabbos. During the winter, as we know, anyone who has a family, you have a family, little kids, even big kids, doesn't help any, right? Tosefes Shabbos during the winter is like out of the question. But in the summer, especially in Chutz La'aretz, people do Tosefes Shabbos, early Shabbos. So, like in Australia, these places where the seasons are reversed right now, the longest Shabbosos are right now. So what we do in the summer here, at least in Chutz, I know in Eretz Yisrael, the people are just against taking in Shabbos early. Yeah, whatever. Okay, I'm not going to get into this right now. But in Chutz, everyone knows, everyone takes in Shabbos early from after Plaga Mincha. It's like what most Yidden do. Because it just comes in too late and goes, kayadua. All right, okay. So the point is the point I want to get to is like this. So this may not be so lemaisa for us, because Chanukah for us is in the winter when Shabbos comes in early. So who's the nutcase that wants to, bring in Shabbos earlier when you're barely ready in time? When Shabbos comes in shortly after 4:00 in the afternoon, okay. But in Australia or these places where Shabbos is coming in at like 8, 9 o'clock, you want to take in Shabbos early because, that's how it works in these places where seasons are reversed. So the Shabbos comes in very late. You want to take in Shabbos early, so you have to take in Shabbos, or you got to light candles early. Can't do that. According to the Rambam, it seems to be. I'm not saying Allah is like the Rambam, we have to, but the das of the Rambam, Shabbos, Chanukah, no, you got to take in Shabbos late, and because you have to light samach l'shkia. Ideally, you should let at shkia, if short just pull it in, but the Rambam only lets you do it for Shabbos because if shar b'lav hachi, right? So you pull it in a little bit, but he said lo makdimin. It's not lo makdimin because your candles won't last. Lo makdimin literally. Because if I would be, I'm glad it didn't work out. I was supposed to be a Rosh in Australia, but it's the way, as a Rambamist, it's the way I would have had to paskin for everyone. Shabbos Chanukah, you bring in Bazman, so you could light Chanukah candles, Samach L'Shkia, because Lo Makdimin. I think this is Das Rambam. And you think about it, it makes good sense because hadlaka, that is the Maisa mitzvah. The Maisa mitzvah is the hadlaka, so you have to do it bisman achiyuv. It doesn't help you that the candle will burn la'achar zman chiyuvo. It's hadlaka is a mitzvah. Okay, so he goes on to say, if you made a mistake or you're even amazed and you didn't like which shkia sachama, it's much also that he's not, he's not a Rabbeinu Tamdik. Ram holds you light at shkia, not at seis. Because he doubles down on it, right? Im shkia sachama, it's not. I know, but the other, Rishonim, there are Rabbeinu Tamniks, which is most Rishonim, once upon a time. A pendulum swung the other way, but once upon a time, most Rishonim, were Rabbeinu Tamniks. And they say, there's between Mishatishka Achama, Mishatishka is not the same as Shkia Sachama. One Shkia Sachama is the first Shkia. Mishatishka Achama refers to Shkia Shnia that happens 58 and a half minutes later after our Shkia. Now, but the Rambam, it's Masha, it's not Masha, I think he's saying it black on white, it's Shkia as we know it. The regular shkia. So if you did not, madlik shkia, madlik, so you still have, madlik, you have until achetichla regel min ashuk. V'kamu zmanzek mochatzi shoyotzer, you have on, it's half an hour or more. Others manzeh, madlik, if this time passes, you don't light anymore, right? All right, so the Rambam is not open to the din of Tosfos. Right, the din of Tosfos is that bisman hazeh, right, Tosfos, says like this, Tosfos point, I believe it's all from the Balei Tosfos, and it's become the normal halacha for everybody. Just about as far as I know, but clearly the Rambam is against it. Tosfos says, listen, there are two Lashonos in the Gemara, right? So we're machmir like both, right? And that's that mishatishka achama chetikla rashuk is that's the zman. If you dilo adlik madlik, you still light, but after you don't madlik anymore, or inami l'shiura, which the Rambam's going to say also. So everyone agrees to machmir the chumras of both, right? L'chatchila, but says Tosfos like this, right? So let's say I missed chetikla regel rashuk. He says you could be somech on the other day that what Chazal meant is only l'shiura for how much oil, and still be madlik. Still be madlik, right? View it as a machlokes, right? And okay, so I missed this man coin Ismail, but according to Mandomer, that's l'shiura. He's saying l'shiura dafka, right? And not that lo adlik madlik. And when you somech on that, that's one svara, and Tosfos also brings up another svara that the person was bnei bayis. Bisman hazeh, anyway, we light bifnim, so the person is not for the people walking around the shuk, but it's bnei bayis bifnim. You see that the Rambam doesn't hold of Tosfos. That was on zeh eno madlik. Period. The only question we can ask, according to the Rambam, is that. Is Ken Zain like this? Of course, according to the Mandama, the Shiur, right, which he's about to say. So, of course, it doesn't make sense, and I totally disagree with what people say, name the Brisker Love, right? They say the name of Rabbi Soloveitchik. I never saw it inside, and I think it's crazy. I mean, I don't believe that the Brisker Love or Soloveitchik seriously held that way. It's not logical to me that the Chazal said when they said how much oil to put in. Oh, in this door, put in only half an hour because there are people out there. But in a door, when people have nightlife, right? Oh, and okay, so now the shear will expand. And the satat rechla shiurin, literally, sure. When people are out in the shuk for a little time, so it's only half an hour of oil. But if people are out there like Biyamenu, there are people who do shopping after dark. It's we could talk about whether that's good for society or bad for society, but everything's full swing till about 9 o'clock at night. Everywhere in the Western world, and so it's even worse. People are in Osharat and the Haredi world. These guys don't go to sleep. So I don't know. They say the name of the Brisker Rav that he wanted to find out where the Edison Theater, which was opposite his house. How long, when's the Tofa Achrona? When is the last showing? When does it end? And asked Briskerov here. Briskerov was asking about movies. No, that for me, that's Tichla Regel Mashuk, so I'm going to set up my candles to go out by then. Now, it could be, people have to look at, think, Briskerov, may have had a little bit of a sense of humor, and he wants those people seeing Sratim to come out and see Ner Chanukah and give them some musar, right? But I don't think he was saying that that's Ikar Adin, right? That, it was only in days of Chazal that, when Chazal say this much oil, Mistam was a Dover Katsuv L'Doris, not like, and it'll change in every door and door. No, that's nonsense. It's a shtut, right? It's not logical, right? Mr. Only gave you a double Katsuv as half an hour candle. Oh. But I'll tell you what, but as far as the Zman, if the Pirsum is the Bnei Ashuk, and they never said Chatzi Shah, it just happened to have been Chatzi Shah. But if people are still walking around Ashuk, that makes sense. So the Pirsum is to Bnei Ashuk. So of course, it's only a half an hour, right? You don't have to do more than that, right? It doesn't mean till the last guy leaves the Shuk. Well, they said a Dover Kotzev till the Tarmudoim leave the Shuk, because Biyamim, that was the last guy to leave the Shuk. And it's not somebody that, and so in a day where nightlife is longer, you got to put more oil in your candles. That's not Mistaber at all. No, and they said Dover Kotzev is how big your candle has to be. I understand. And they want to say Dover Kotzev L'Doros. But this, you understand, this is a little bit different. Think about this. If the Pirsum is the B'nai Rishus Harabim and the B'nai Ashuk, but the Shuk is open, people are going to Osharad, going to Kol Save, they're going to these places till 9 o'clock at night. The Shuk is active. So light your candle anytime while there's still while the Shuk is still open. And, light the candle anytime, but how long do you have to be Mefarsim to the B'nai Ashuk? For half an hour. So, give them a half an hour of Pirsum Nis. You don't have to be Mefarsim for an hour to hour. You put Pirsum to the Shuk for a half an hour. So this is a good svara. This is a good svara that B'yameinu, that the Shuk is open much later, right? You could light later. I don't think you should have, and therefore you have to put Shemen till there's no one left in the Shuk. Nah. That was no gain in days of Chazal, that there was no street lamps. So there's no point after half an hour when even the Talmudoim who used to sell the firewood are gone. No point, right? But okay, and the feed that was the Shir Shemen. How long do you have to make a Pirsum to the Bnei Ashuk? For half an hour. You don't have to do more than that. You don't have to do it for as long as there are people. But the Zman, that's Pirsum Bnei Ashuk, okay, so there's the Metziah says that the Bnei Ashuk are out there. So that is a good svara. That I feel is a good svara. That's legit. I have to say, I'm pretty, I was once, I came back, from, when I was a bacher. I was in Ner Yisrael. And, I lit in my mother's house, and then I went back to Yeshiva and arrived there at 3 o'clock in the morning. Baltimore is a 4-hour drive from New York. I arrived so it was like mamish. So we lit. The Zman of the Hadloka came in while I was still in my mother's house, which is my house also. I was Samach al Shulchana, during the time that I was there, right? So I'm one of the Bnei Abayis. The Zman came. I lit with a bracha in my mother's house, right? Because after the Zman, plenty of time after the Zman had already come in, I went back to Baltimore. I arrived at 3 a.m. and we were in the car with a very chashva, someone who was destined to become a big Baal Halacha, and he was into Halacha back then. He arrived at 3 a.m. and he said, I'm lighting. He's going to light Ner Chanukah, right? He's going to go to the dining room where I said, this is insane. Hilchos Kvoda, no, he's considered to be a big posek now. And he has a shul in Baltimore. Whatever, there could be a lot of people, but at the time I argued on him. Maybe he changed his mind since. He also was a bacher just back then, but it was known to be a big bar halacha, big medakdel. So I'm lighting, because like Tosfos, that were the Pirsum was the Bnei Abayis, and like Tosfos, that you could assume, take it as a machloikas, and like the Manda Omar, that the shiura that Achterah was just how much oil koyim, there is no zman. So I'm being machmir and I'm lighting, and he went, and the other guy who actually did the driving said, if he's going, I'm going, and I said, good night, guys. It's 3 a.m. Because for first of all, let me buy according to Rambam and Li Malasot. But even according to Tosfos, the Pierces of Bnei bias, right? According to that far, no one's up at 3 a.m. It's just you and him. You're creating the problem for yourselves, right? So but also even when Tosfos said, view it as a machloikas, right? And use the inami l'shiura for the shemen as that according to him there is no zman. It's all night long, right? That's if you didn't light yet, but you were already yotze. All three of us had lit, wherever we were in New York that evening. He was saying if you weren't Mekayim the mitzvah in any way, shape, or form, we were Mekayim the mitzvah already. Decades later, I still think I was right. Kitzer. Okay. Tzorch Yitein Shemen Baner Kidei Shetia Dolekes V'Holechas. Right, and you have to also put oil in the candle that should go and continue light. V'Holechas Achel, because we're machmir like both days, right? We're machmir like both, and Ram says we maskins the chumras of both, and doesn't say that you could pit one against the other lekula, as we just explained. He argues on Tosfos, right? So you have to. So it's both. It's both. No, it's not one or the other, but it's both. This is the Zman, and it ends by Tichla Regel Shuk. But I think I think the Rambam would agree that Biyameinu Tichla Shuk is later. It was just Kamo Chatzisha in his days, right? And I think that's why Chazal said the piercing was the Bnei Shuk, so as long as the Shuk is open. And that's Zepashur. But how much oil? That's a davar kotzuv. Right? It's hard to believe Chazal say put more oil in another door, put less oil in a different door. That's Sat Rechel Shurim. But this is not Nasat Rechel Shurim because it's very simple. It's a one shear. Pirsum to the shuk. Now the shuk is still open. I think this is that according to the Rambam B'Yameinu, you could still light easily until 9 o'clock at night in the Western world, where people are out shopping and shopping shuk kaputo would be a good thing, not a bad thing. Right? People out doing bad things also. Restaurants, theaters, all right, that's fine. Let's not go there. You think now shuk is when the nightclubs close? Hopefully not. Right? But I think shuk, that's also something to think about. It's when shops are open. So some shops close 7, 8. Yeah, but I think you're in this day and age, you're good till about 8, 9 o'clock. That's when things close. Especially during Chanukah, they stay open later. Because it's business to do. Okay, I think that's correct. Now, if you light and it goes out, you don't have to light again. All right, that's the din of kafta eno zakokla. Now, I'm just saying, even though we're learning Rambam, the mechaber is a pella. This din of kafta eno zakokla, Gemara says as an independent principle, not connected to hadlokos mitzvah. It's very strange that the mechaber, I think it's in Tafresh Ayin Hey, it's a shvera mechaber in my opinion. It's clear that even Lu Yitzur, not that anyone holds it, but Lu Yitzur would say hanachos mitzvah, the halacha is still kafta eno zakokla, but the mechaber combines the two. I think it's in Tafresh Ayin Hey. Is that where it is? He says, since hadlaka oisa mitzvah, that's why kafta eno zakokla, when these are two independent principles, right? It's echad lo talui b'sheni. The fact that the whole mice is the hadlaka and not the hanocha in the window. So if it's lit already, you have to put it out and then light it in the window. You can't light it and then put it in the window because the hadlaka is the mitzvah. But the Gemara already said the din of kafta zah before it even came up with the idea of hadlaka also mitzvah. Ayin sham. So it's a very shver mechaber that he makes it totally. As if once we said halacha, we say that's the reason kafta is because you did the mitzvah already, right? But the Rambam is not saying he didn't even mention halacha mitzvah per se. He's alluding to it. He says v'lo makdimin. He alluded to it. Halacha mitzvah. You have to do mizman chiyuv, right? Right. So let's say it burns after shakol saregel min hashuk. Right. Hold on, so I have to close the door here. Hope that helps. Vacuum cleaner is distracting in the background. Anyway, so now the Rambam says if you're dolek achar shakol saregel min hashuk, which coined Ram again, he means the half an hour, because by him it's Hainuhach in his day. All right. So, and the way I'm learning it, he means not after the shuk closed down, but after the half an hour is the way I'm learning. If he wants to blow it out or take the candle away, he can. Now, this is the din of the Rif, right? I believe that's where it's brought down black on white, right? And the Rambam Kaidur is in the Masorah of the Rif, right? So, but here's the thing. If check me on this, the Rif, or some Rishonim say a libada Rif, that let's say you don't put it out. Could I be mishtamish la'ira, right? We gotta say we're not allowed to count money to the Chanukah candles. Artsuye mos is also, right? I'm allowed to. The Rambam just says I'm allowed to put it out. He doesn't say that I could start being mishtamish la'ira. From the Rif, as I recall, again, we said the rules of this forum is we're working text-wise, we're only working with the text of the Rambam. But whatever we remember offhand, is fair game. But with the text, we're only looking at with the Rambam. So I'm not looking at the Rif inside, but take a look at this. I think that the way they understand in the Rif is that you can be mishtamish la'ira. After half an hour, look, the Zman of the mitzvah is over. It burnt its half an hour. You're allowed to be martza mos to do be mishtamish loira. The type of shibushim that we say also mishtamish loira. Right? The Rambam doesn't say that. The Rambam just says you're allowed to put it out. You're yaitz the mitzvah. You're allowed to take it away. Right? He doesn't say unless it's going to come in the like I say in all these forms. Whenever I learn a text with you guys out there in cyberspace, it's always a chavrusa. It's always, I'm learning this. I didn't look ahead of time, unless we're going to see otherwise in a Rambam coming up, right? If he's held like that, you can even be mishtamish lori, you should say it, because that's the bigger chiddush. It's mashal you can put it out because you're yaitz the mitzvah, so save your oil, right? But and also you don't have to leave it out on the window. Right, and of course, it's talking about after half an hour, and he said there's still b'nei shuk that could, so you don't have to. You did your half an hour, dayenu, all right. But it's still a ner mitzvah, and would still be bizui mitzvah if you're mishtamish la'ira. That's what it sounds like, because you still lit the candle l'shem mitzvah. You still lit the candle l'shem mitzvah. So you're allowed to stop the mitzvah because you're yaitz already. You lit the candle l'shem mitzvah, so it's a ner mitzvah. You can't be mishtamish. Oh, that's what it sounds like to the Rambam. Since the Rambam doesn't fully accept what they say in the Rif. In the Rif, it sounds like that after half an hour, it's not a ner mitzvah anymore. And I'm saying, no, you lit it l'shem mitzvah. It's still a ner mitzvah. Just you can put it out because you're yaitz to the mitzvah already, right? There's no inyan after a half an hour to keep it going. But it sounds like that it's also l'shtamish l'or, because even if it's even mutter l'shtamish l'or after half an hour, you should say that, because that's the bigger chiddush, not pashtus. Whereas the Rambam seems to be arguing on what they say in the Rif, that it's not, after half an hour it's nothing. After half an hour it's you can put it out, but not after. But it's still a ner mitzvah because you lit l'shem mitzvah, so it's still a ner mitzvah, and it would be bizui mitzvah if you be mishtamish l'or. But you can put it out. That's what it seems. Kei nirali, in the Havana of the Rambam. Okay, Vav. All right, now it's going to go fast. I think things are a little bit more straightforward. Right, Koshman v'apsilas ksheros l'ner Chanukah. Right, all the the oils and wicks are kosher ner Chanukah v'pi she'ein shemar nechar ptila v'nezberos on ptilas. Even though it's the oil is not drawn well, it's not well absorbed into the wick. and the light doesn't cling, the fire doesn't cling well to the pit wicks. Shabbos. So now even on Shabbos Chanukah, we don't say, okay, Shabbos Chanukah, so have all the chumras of Ner Shabbos in the Neros Chanukah, that we know Ner Shabbos has to be good candles, that they shouldn't go out. No. See if this works. Okay, looks like I am online. Shem Yazor. See if this comes out good. Anyways, so the mashmos is from this Rambam, that the also ishtamish l'ora, even after the half an hour, he never says, like I said, I think he really argues on the rif. He indeed argues on the rif, right? And that, like we were medayik, that even after the half an hour, it's also ishtamish l'ora. Just you're allowed to put it out because you're yaitz already. But I don't know how much got cut off at the on the previous on the other platform that I'm also broadcasting on. Right, hopefully, mostly got on. Gitzer. All right, so we continue. Halacha Zayin. נערך המצווה ניחא בפסח בעשר מבחוץ, בתר סורך לפסח על שמאל ניחא שבייס כדי שמיזו מיד ונערך חנוכה משמאל, נער בעלים ניחא בחלון עצמו חשוס הרבין, ונערך חנוכה שיר על מה המסורת, לא עשה לו כלום לפי שאינו ניכר. Okay, this is all very straightforward. So נערך חנוכה, you have to put it על פסח בעשר מבחוץ, בתפח הסורך לפסח. On the left side of the guy going in, that you have the mezuzah miyamin, נערך חנוכה משמאל, and if you live in an attic, which you don't have your own front door. So the Dar Baliyah means you don't have your own front door that leads into your living quarters. So you put in the chalon, and if you put above Esram, you do nothing because it's Eino Nicker. So the thing to be medayik over here is al Pesach Beso mibachutz. He does not go, he's not mazkir anywhere the din of Tosfos, right? So he takes everything very literally. That if you have a chotzer, you light out Pesach chotzer, Pesach Beso mibachutz. It's clear that the Rambam understands like Rashi and takes the Gemara very late. Beso, not Pesach Beso if you have no chotzer, right? And according to Tosfos, all the bnei achotzer light at the Petach achotzer, and that's why Tosfos Shita says Ner Sheshel Pesach Ola Shnei Bnei Adam refers to two different households, because two different houses share the same chotzer and they lit at Pesach achotzer. That's the day of Tosfos. The Rambam is not masha anywhere that he holds that way. He's like Rashi, and therefore we said yesterday, Ner Sheshel Shtei Pios Ola Shnei Bnei Adam. Right, so that means for the Mahadran that do Ner Kol Echad Ve'echad, he'll learn it like Rashi, because going to the Rambam and Rashi is no mitzias that two different batim light in the same place. Okay, it was a pashut. Okay, okay. So now we go weiter. Ner Chanukah besoch Beso Infnim va'afili nichal shulchano dayo. Right, so now Daf Grimiyach Sakon, a person could put a Ner Chanukah in his house on the inside, and even if he puts it on his own table, that is enough. Now the Rambam just jumps to Yemei Sakona. If you read the Megillas Tainus carefully, right, and it seems that also that seems to have been the minhag in Europe also, that there's two different levels. There's like when it's uncomfortable to light outside, you go, goyim there, they might take your candle, they might, there's so most of the Megillas Tanis, which is also seemingly how the Rishonim learned, so that there's actually two different levels here, right? If you read the Megillas Tainus, inside, so that if goyim are angry, they'll steal your ner. You light bifnim, mash, but even bifnim, you should put it, let's say, in a room that has a mezuzah opposite the mezuzah, right? And there are those that say that. There are those who are makbid to do it. If you're lighting bifnim and you're not putting it in the chalon, so you should light bifnim. But then shas sakona is when there was a gzeira that you're not allowed to light any candle for ritual purposes, for pulchan, for ritual purposes. You're allowed to have a house light, right? You're allowed to have a house light. So that's minichal shulchano v'dayo. That's even, it's not nikr, even that's in Ner Chanukah in any way. It's dayo. So it's just like two different levels. There's a level of where it's uncomfortable light outside because the goyim, they don't. Whether it's too cold or the goyim don't like you, then madlik b'bifnim, right? And then there's another level of shasa sakana, which then minichal shulchana, where it's camouflage. You could easily say, "This is my house lamp," right? Right. This is my house lamp, right? But the Rambam is not machalik. It's all, if it's not a sakana to light outside, you light outside. Yeah, sakana. Now, question: what sakana is that? To be pikuach nefesh? I don't know. Lav dafka. But the Rambam is not machalik. He doesn't divide it. But I remember from the reading of the Megillas Tanis, and it's like what it sounds like according to the Rishonim. They weren't saying it's pikuach nefesh to light outside, but the guy might break your menorah, steal your menorah, whatever it is. It's like lo naim, right? And that's like, as I recall, check me on this. It's like two different madregas. So and then there's shasa sakana. That's menicha shulchan v'dayo, right? Right, when it's mamsha sakana, it's mamsha sakana nefashis, or they'll beat you up, or what? But I don't know. But the Ram's not machag. He says, puts it all in the same guy. You make sakana, and even on the table if you want. But which is a big, I think the big chiddush over here. I said this on the Shabbos. I said it on the spot when discussing it with the children of my hosts. He was sharing a parsha sheet, a Chanukah sheet that he got. We're just being mafalpal in this. And I said that the amazing thing over here is that Chazal want you to do Ner Chanukah even when it's dangerous. You would think that a Drabanan, they just let you off. They want to give you a way you can makayim it without putting yourself in danger. It's also called Ner Chanukah. It's also called Ner Chanukah. Even it's al Shulchano, it's also called Ner Chanukah. It's an amazing thing because Ner. And I said, just it's interesting. It's not anything deep. It's very straightforward. Chanukah is our struggle against goyim. Their goys are against Yadus. We push back. So it would be very so. So on Hanukkah we should give in, but of course, be Meiser Nefesh. For Mitzvah D'Rabbanan, Chazal didn't want you to have to be Meiser Nefesh, but they decided that they're the ones who created Ner Chanukah. They decided even if it's al Shulchano and it's not Nicker, it's still Ner Chanukah. If that's the way you have to do it, because you don't give them a victory. Chanukah is all the chag of pushing back against the goyim. You can't give them a victory. So they said, you know what? It's also called Ner Chanukah, even if it's al Shulchano. I think that's correct. Something else, but it's all chabayis nerachel ishtam. So there has to be another candle in the house to use, because you can't still also, so even though it's on the shulchan, like a regular candle, it's camouflaged, right? You still need another candle, that you should use the light of that candle. So if you're walking around the house, so you don't bump into objects, you could say you're not using the light of the Chanukah candle, it's the other candle, right? But of course, you have a fireplace. You don't need another candle because the fireplace gives us light. But then it seems, I never understood the Metzias exactly, but this Adam Chashva doesn't use the light of the Medura. Now, I'm guessing what it has to mean, obviously, to walk around the house, the Adam Chashva is some type of masochist, that if he sees his way around the house, he's because of a Medura, he's going to close his eyes. He's not going to walk around the house. He will bedafka bump into objects unless there's candlelight, right? Now, of course, that's not what it's talking about. Of course, you understand what it means. Lishtamish Lora means lishtamish, like what we said in halacha earlier. Check coins. Me and you, we would check coins, in front of a fireplace. He doesn't sit in front of a fireplace he needs a brighter light. So he's not going to read in front of a fireplace by the light of the fireplace. He's not going to count his money. But me and you, simpletons, we would, just curl up by the fireplace with the book to read or the money to count. And that's what it's talking about. Right? That's what it means. But of course, if you're not doing any reading and if you're not doing any money counting and you have a fireplace, of course, that's good enough. The Adam Chashav also, he's not going to be dafka, bump into objects just because the light's coming from a fireplace. That just means when, for the Nerachel Ishtamish Lor is talking about for Artsuye Mos, or reading or anything like that. Okay. Now we're getting to the din of hadlaka. It's a mitzvah, right? So ner that was lit by a cherushet v'kan or a goy, it's nothing until you have the kelim mishachai badlaka has been lit by a bar chiyuva. He look over the look we call Pesach Beisol Loss so now by the same token, since hadlaka is a mitzvah, if you lit it inside, which the Rambam says you're only allowed to do b'shas sakana, right? Right, he wasn't, only allowed to do b'shas sakana. So otherwise, not shalom. So you have to light b'chutz, right? So this could be for him. V'otzil the look v'nichol pesach beis. So you lit it on the inside, but then it's not shas sakana. So you have to light. You have to light outside. So you put on pesach beis. So let's go to go. You have to light it in its proper place, right? Right, hadlaka. This is the din of hadlaka is a mitzvah. The critical ma'isa mitzvah is the lighting, so it has to be done where you have to light. So if it's shalom b'satzchan, you have to light outside. So you can't light it inside and take it outside. You have to know. You have to extinguish it and light it in its place because hadlaka is a mitzvah, right? And that's why also and then I'll put in the windows also no good. Hadlaka is a mitzvah. This is the din of hadlaka is a mitzvah. Okay. Let's say that's just a separate thing. Even though if I light the candle, the shame mitzvah, and I'm holding it like a torch, right? You're not yotze because it's not nicker that it's a ner Chanukah. Right? It's a different, even though hadlaka also, and you also were madlik l'shem mitzvah, you're still not yotze because it doesn't look like a ner Chanukah. Ner Chanukah mean ner Chanukah. So now a lantern, which is not a medura, obviously, a lantern that's not a medura, because a medura is possible, kayadua, like we learned, right, earlier. All right, so Ashish is a lantern that's not a Medura. It was like so. So I mean, the way it was Dolek Kolayom is because you lit it Erev Shabbos and you Leil Shabbos, before Samach Lishkia, like we were Medayik, right? And it was burning all day. Why? Why was it burning all day? Because you're not allowed to be Machaba on Shabbos, right? So now Matzah Shabbos, so it's still lit, and now there's still plenty of oil, so it's still lit on Matzah Shabbos. Well, no, Mechabe Umadlika. You put it out, you make a bracha in your mouth, Shadlaka, mitzvah, because you're not, it's a new night, it's a new chiyuv hadlaka, and hadlaka also mitzvah, so you got to blow it out and relight, even though there's plenty of oil for it to keep on burning all night Motzei Shabbos. Right, so since the hadlaka was the hadlaka of Erev Shabbos, so now Motzei Shabbos, new chiyuv, you need a new Maisa hadlaka. And we don't say, well, it was nidla. So you have to say, think about the svara over here of why he had to say this. Because you might think, well, I did it. I was madlik l'shem ner Chanukah. I did have lakos mitzvah, right? I did have lakos. Just it's now going into another night, but it was mikoch hadlaka l'shem mitzvah ner Chanukah, right? Still not good. New night, new chiyuv, new hadlaka. Well, that's the madlikin ner miner because it's not bizui mitzvah because they're both neros mitzvah, right? Mashra from the Rambam that it's also to do with the shamash. There's in the Rishonim there's a diyun. What if I light with a sham? I take the shamash to a ner Chanukah, but I'm doing it only al menas to light the other ner Chanukah. So there's some Rishonim that are matir. The Rambam sounds like he asers. He is not like those that are matir they kinsa, which is the shamash, because not bizu mitzvah, because I'm doing l'shem mitzvah. I'm only taking the light in order to give. The Rambam holds no intermediary. The Rambam leaves the din kitsu rasa mashma that the Rambam argues on those rishonim that say you could, if it's ner Chanukah al menas hadlik ner Chanukah, you could take through a kinza, an intermediary. Rambam's mashma not that way. He's a machmir, not like those rishonim. Those rishonim had a cheshbon of why it's mutter, right? They had a svara of why it's mutter. As I recall, I'm not holding the sugya. I can't, as the Rambam obviously would disagree with that whole cheshbon of why, if it's only out bizui mitzvah, which means mutter idea kinsa, the Rambam doesn't hold that way. The Rambam holds it's literally ner Chanukah, ner Chanukah. You'd have to stretch the wick of one to light the other. Yeah. Tzorach shtei neros. Shem Rabbeinu Baruch said lo yiniach ner Chanukah. Baruch echad madlik beechad mehem. So over here, I think this is where Tosfos may have gotten his deal, right? But he said a chotzer that has two openings and two, on two, sides, need shtei neros. All right, because one will say, maybe the guy didn't light Hanukkah candles. The guy didn't. But if he has, yes, he lights in one. So now, obviously the house has two doors. Zeh pashut, right? So it's not the pshat that from this Gemara. I think Tosfos actually uses this Gemara as a raya, but I don't recall. Check me on this. But this Ram brings this din of chotzer. You have to light out. You have to light in two places. Oh, so you do light out Pesach HaChotzer. No. It's like this, right? Of course, talking about that the house has, if the Chotzer has two openings, so does the house, obviously, right? So why would you want to disturb your privacy and have a breach in the fence around your backyard, if not for the fact that, it's good because that way you could go in also through the back door. I think the way the Rambam understood, it's because this is a Gemara Mefureshes, and I think Tosfos uses this Gemara, if I'm not mistaken, right? But Rashi doesn't hold like Tosfos, and the Rambam doesn't. The Rambam never says, right. He just says tzarich shtei neros. Where do you put those shtei neros? It doesn't say al Pesach Chotzer. Chotzer has shnei psachim tzarich shtei neros, right? Where do you put those shtei neros? On the front door and the back door. And the chiddush is like this, if you have a front door and a back door, you don't have to light 2 ners. Pesach basically bachut just one place, right? But if there's also the chutzner, people could see in, and they see your back door, and you go in through the back door also. That's why you have the Pesach, to go in through the back door. So you need a ner on your back door, not on the Pesach chutzner. Just where if there's a breach, that b'derech, if you have a house with 2 doors, right, and you have a backyard, all right, so you don't have to light by both psachim, by the Pesach of both batim, only by one, right? But but if you could also enter the house from the back door, because from the Rosh Hashanah means from the Rosh Hashanah, you could go straight into your house so that second Pesach is also chayiv, but not midin ner ishu bei, so 1 candle, midin chshad. Right, but the way to learn over here is that because you can get into the house through the back door from the Rosh Hashanah directly, that's when you have the chshad, and you have to put by that door. But which door? By your back door, not by the Pesach HaChotzer. But just because the Chotzer has a petach, and through that petach you can get into your house directly from the Rosh Hashanah through the back door, right? Because the Chotzer in front of the back door has a petach, right? So that's why you have to light where? At the back door. She says, but where do you put those shtei neros? By the front door and the back door. Because on this side, you didn't put it. It's going about obviously a front and a back, because you don't see the other ner Chanukah. Those who pass by the back Rosh Hashanah, as opposed to the front, say, this guy's not doing Chanukah. This is talking about you could enter the house from the Rosh Hashanah from the other side. But even though there's many ptachim, but they're all on the same side, so everyone from the same Rosh Hashanah sees the 1 candle you put. So about it, there's a back door, and the Bnei Rosh Hashanah on the other side don't see the ner Chanukah, you put it on the first side, and because there's a breach in the fence, that means that you could enter your house directly from that Rosh Hashanah, and that's why I have to put on that doorway. Right? I hope I'm being clear. And I think obviously is that patach patuach Rosh Hashanah. So we have back gates. We have in chutzlarts, good suburbia. We often open. We have gates so we could get in through the backyard, but it's generally not from the Rosh Hashanah. It's from the other yard of so that it's only about. Simple Svar says if the petach is a petach to the Rosh Hashanah, there's Rosh Hashanah in front of the house, Rosh Hashanah in the back of the house. You get directly from the Rosh Hashanah in the back house directly into the house. So that's you have 2 front doors. You have 2 front doors, and that's why even though there's a front door and a back door, no one's machmir to light by the back door because everyone knows it's a back door. You don't really go from the Rosh Hashanah into the house through there. You go from the Rosh Hashanah into the house through the front door. Right? It was that pashut, right? But I'm just saying this Rambam is not a raya that the Rambam holds like Tazilala Pesach HaChotzer. The way to read it is if the Chotzer Hashnei Psachim, therefore you need 1 in front, 1 in back, that you don't see both Psachim simultaneously. You have to light at the front door and at the back door. That's what it means, right? We light on Pesach HaBayis. Okay, it was that pashut. So a guest that they're lighting about in his house does not have to light in a place where he is a guest, right? Because the chiv is really on the bias, and his bias has a ner. And that's so meduik. Ain't no bias. He has no house to be madlik for him. Because now that's his house. It's so beautiful. It's like ain't no misha yadlik alav. It's ain't no bias yadlik alav. It's so meduik what we were medaikar to do. The chiv is on the house. So the reason why an orech achsanai who has a family doesn't light because the chiv is on the house and his house has a ner Chanukah. And lo ba'isad you don't have your own house, right? That it doesn't have to be a house that you own. You don't have your own place that you live in, right? So it's like Makosh Zarachbo. Now, by the way, from the Mashmos, the Rambam is like this, right? And I've done this. Problem is, you have to do it. We were medayik from the Rambam, samach l'shkia. Of course, I was machmir a few ways, right? Like when I went away this Shabbos, I had people that lit in my house, right? Because I left, I was, like I said, I was in Skull residence in the Young Israel Borough Park this past Shabbos. So I did both. I left some family behind, and they lit in my house, right? But of course, it was not samach l'shkia. They lit samach l'shkia. But whatever, I was machmir. I lit also where I was staying. Where I said I lit in two places. I lit where I was sleeping, with a bracha, samach l'shkia, but not mamash shkia, and samach l'shkia, much closer. I lit where I was eating without a bracha, just to be machmir always around, right? But again, I'm an Ashkenazi, so I'm from the Ramah people, and I'm a Ramah person, and so I hold that Beker the Chiv, like the Ramah Chiv is Beker on the Gavra, right? So it's I like you. You should light your own menorah. We did Mahadrin. Everyone lights their own menorah, right? Just I had a suffix of how to be Mekayim va Mahadrin, whether I should do in the place where I sleep or place where I sleep. Because that's where I plunked down my stuff. That's where I lit with bracha, and I lit without a bracha upstairs and with another family, across, it was a different house. That's why it was a problem, because I was eating in a different place than while I was sleeping. So I lit with bracha where we set up camp, where we were sleeping, because that's where we were going to be. Right? So I lit there, and then I lit without a bracha, before Shkia, obviously, without a bracha with the place where I was going to be eating that night. Okay, but look at the Rosh Hashanah. So, but for the Rambam, the point I wanted to get to is like this. It's a problem with we have a different problem calling Rambam, calling the Shabbos. That has to be mamish samach l'shkia, like we're medayik. But that problem aside, right? So let's say, I'm going to sleep somewhere else on Shabbos, right? So whatever, roughly candle lighting time, bisman lakas neros on Erev Shabbos, I light by my house and I go. And I'm not going to see my house, and no one's in my house. No one's in my house, right? I'm not going to see my house again till Matzai Shabbos. Perfectly fine, because the chiv is on the house. So I have to light that my house, have an air. I don't have to be in the house. It's my house. I have to make sure my house has an air Chanukah. So what I did also in Eretz Yisrael, once my father, Olav Shalom, came out on a Shabbos Chanukah, and he treated us to go to the hotel. So I lit, I didn't light. I made a shliach to light my menorah of my house. I told him that, so it shouldn't be a problem, bro. He should light his own menorah and kavana to include my house, and then come light a menorah that I set up outside of my house, without a bracha. So my house had and I was mishtatif bepruta, because since my house had a ner Chanukah, and he was my shliach, so I did it. So like the Ramah also, I was yaitza mahadrin, because it's my menorah, right? My menorah, he lit my menorah, this guy. All right, so I had a real suffix, so I was mishtatif bepruta, right? So that's I found a guy lighting in the dining room, outside the dining room, in the Ramada, I think it was. So I was mishtatif bepruta, and I answered amen to his brachas. Now let's say you're so lucky, you have two houses, right? And you're in your other house, right? So now you have to light. Because even though it's near Ishu base, so one candle is enough. So it means, amazing thing, even though you have multiple houses, still near Ishu base. So if you have a lot of real estate, you don't have to put a candle in each and every house, right? But if you are not staying in the house where they're lighting for you, and the other house is your house, we didn't chashad. You have to light. So it comes out an amazing thing. The chiv is on the house, right? So it's not just a pshat that it's one candle per house. The Ram said, it's one candle in one house that you own out of your many, that which you're going to have to light in more than one house is all, or even in more than one place in the front of the house, is all b'pnei ha'ovrim. But the ikr din out mitzvahs ner Chanukah. Out mitzvahs ner Chanukah, the chiv is on the house, and if you have many houses, the chiv is on one house, right? But if you're going to be, you have to light in more than one house. If there's chashad, they see that you're living there, you didn't put ner Chanukah. But it sounds like if a house that you don't live in is not a house you have to put in ner Chanukah, right? A house that you don't live in is not a house you have to put ner Chanukah. And a house, if you're living in two places, you have your family in one place, and you are staying overnight in another place that you own, you have to light midin chashad, but really it's good enough. One candle in one house out. Mitzvahs ner Chanukah, lighting in more than one place is just midin chashad, right? That's masha. You do it without a bracha, right? Without a bracha, right? Right. That's what it sounds like. I mean, that's the question. Do you light if you're yotzim ikra did? So now, Bishlama, according to the Rambam, like we said. Right, that the chiyuv is mahadras that everyone should light their menorah, not be yotzeh. Right, light your own menorah with a bracha. So of course, kind of Ramah that bias b'fnei atzmo. You have to be madlik b'fnei ovrim. You'll do with a bracha because that's the din of mahadran. Everyone light their own menorah. I'm asking according to the Rambam, the lighting about you in your house. Your yotzeh mikra din. According to the Rambam, when you're madlik in another bias b'fnei ovrim. It's not mitzad to be yotze ner Chanukah. It's not a ovrim mitzad achshad. Do you make a bracha? Do we say it's once Chazal say you have to? That means you can make a bracha also, because it's like they gave you a mitzvah, or not. I don't know. All right. Now we're coming. It's such a dear mitzvah. You have to be mizareh that to be modir nes also b'sheva hakel. You'll also b'sheva hakel. It's like we were medaik already way back when. It feels so long ago. Feels so long ago. That really the ikar mitzvahs Chanukah, the ikar Yemech as Yemei Halo v'Simcha, like we were medaik, and just ner Chanukah is also a type of Hala. It's a separate Maisa mitzvah, right? But it's and therefore it has its own bracha and its own zman, but it's also begetter Hala, right? It's also b'shar kavod does or least so it comes out that you may Chanukah or you may Halo v'Simcha. That's their mahus, and even ner Chanukah. As an episode, Osif b'sheva kavod dialo at least Roslano. That's a special thing we have by Persume Nisa. All Nisim there Mishum Persume Nisa. We don't say Aseh Shabbat Chachol V'al Titzarach Labrios. You have to even sell what's on your back. So this is by Chanukah and this is by Arba Koises, right? Afil min atamchui, right? You have to just borrow the money, or sell something. So that's the so by Mikra goes not so shaykh, because whatever you get someone to read it for you, right? But these dinim which are bishum psavis hafil malchol element saki, that's the tamchui. That's hafil min atamchui that we say barba koises. Hafil min atam, you have nothing to eat. Even the food that you eat is from tzedakah, right? So even then, you just have to sell what you own. You sell your own clothing and buy shamners and be madlik, right? Hare Shenlo Prutachas the front of Kiddush by Lucas Nerchanika Magdim the Kosher Nerchanika ala Yain the Kiddush Hov Vishnem Midivrei Som without Nerchanik Sheshpo Zichron Hanes. And Zichron Hanes it means Persume Nisa. So if you have only one penny, it's either wine for Kiddush or Nerchanika. That's it. You're going to be Mavato, the Durabonan of Kiddush ala Yain. Everyone agrees that's an asmachta, right? So how we do Kiddush ala Pas. If you have bread. And if not, you just won't do kiddush, midrabon. You'll have just do it's the din of zochars yan shas should be deraisa. If you have no yain and no pas, I mean, I don't know. Ask your Rav. It could be that if you have no yain pas, you still make the bracha asher bachar banu, you make the bracha mekarsha Shabbos. I don't know the answer to that. Ask your rabbi. Bechelo, yeah, yain lekiddush, and ner Chanukah, you do ner Chanukah because of Pirsumei Nisa, right? Mashba, if it's Mishum Pirsumei Nisa, it's not because you can make Kiddush ala pas also. It's because of Pirsumei Nisa. That means that if you have neither yain nor pas, you'll still buy the ner Chanukah, right? However, of ner base of ner Chanukah or ner base over Kiddush Hayom, ner base of Koram Mishum Shom Bai. So, this we come to the end of it. But yeah, the Rambam wants to end a positive note, not positive, a message about the Koach of Shalom. If you have ner base and ner Chanukah, which means the Shabbos candles, right? All right, so you or ner beso and Kiddush Hayom, Shabbos candles versus wine for Kiddush. Ner beso kodem mishum shalom beso. Hashem nechal Hashem ishto. The reason for having candlelight is shalom bias. That the right, shalom bias. That because you're going to be, you bang into objects, you bang into each other. There'll be agitation. It's an amazing thing. You can have shalom without food, right? You can't have shalom without light, right? So Hashem nimchak lasos v'om by Saita. We are erasing the Shem HaKadosh in the Megillah Saita that gets imchak to make shalom. It's important to have shalom. Go shalom skol tornin lasos shalom b'olam. Greatest shalom that the whole Torah is given to make peace in the world. Shalom, right? It's an interesting thing. Shekala Torah nitna lasos shalom b'olam, right? Right. That's interesting. I never even noticed it before. Torah makes peace in the world. Now we know for reasons that need to be understood, because it always seems that there's always machlokas between Talmidei Chachamim. I mean, that's a joke. Please, I'm not being motzi lazar am Yisrael. It's quite interesting. Right? So we know where's Torah, but it's Lasso Shalom Ba'olam. Well, that's interesting. Lasso Shalom Ba'olam. But one thing's for sure, if we say, if you are makbid al adin, and you don't flub things for the freaking compromised, liberal-minded Jews or liberals in general, mipnei shalom. No, not shalom. Torah's Lasso Shalom Ba'olam. The real shalom comes from Torah, right? So. Never, say, well, maybe mipnei hasholom. No, nothing. If Chazal said you could do something mipnei hasholom or mipnei eva, okay. So now that's the answer because Chazal said. So it's derech haTorah. Right? If Chazal didn't say, you don't say. The Torah makes shalom bolam. Bringing Torah to the world will bring peace to the world. So remember, we were done by Yeshiva of Yaakov One, the following question: if we don't find anywhere in halacha that you have to sell your shirt on your back to get Shabbos candles, but it should be that way, right? Because the Shabbos candles are more chashuv than ner Chanukah, and ner Chanukah you're mocher ksuso, right? Right, so you would say, it's a drum kavachom. You should have to sell even the shirt on your back, but we don't find such a halacha. Right, by Ner Chanukah we find this halacha. We don't find this halacha by Ner Shabbos, and you would think that it should be the halacha. Because Ner Shabbos is even more chashuv than Ner Chanukah. That if you don't have money for candles, it has to be Ner Shabbos, right? Because Ner Shabbos is, the light that you work by. It's not going to be nicker. It's going to be. Why can't you do both? You might ask. Because you can't. You also ishtamish for, but it also has to be nicker that it's a ner Chanukah, like we learned. If it's your Shabbos candles that you eat by, it's not nicker that's a ner Chanukah. So therefore, it's possible the ner Chanukah, because it has to be clear that the ner is for Chanukah only, right? So it's a pellet that I remember I was about we were at a Shabbos Chanukah. We were having dinner with Rosh Yeshiva, and Rosh Yeshiva asked me what I thought. He singled me out. I said, I don't know. Well, I said, what I thought was a lumdish teretz. He says, listen, as choshev as shalom is, the din of limkor ksuso is outs pirsumei nisa, like the Rambam writes, and there's no pirsumei nisa by Ner Shabbos. It's the chomer of selling the clothes on your back is outs pirsumei nisa, and Ner Shabbos is not pirsumei nisa. So as even though if more important than Ner Chanukah, but it's still not pirsumei nisa, and The Rosh Yeshiva said, you're not wrong, but there's a simpler teretz. What type of shalom bayis will it be, right? If the guy has, the lights are on because he has candles, right? But he has no shirt on his back. No, because he's old. How's his wife going to feel? What's going to be the atmosphere in the house? So I said, you could say more pashut, he said to me. He asked me, why don't you say, you could say more pashut. You don't have to say lumdish, that the whole din of mocher ksusas out persumei nisa, and as great as Ner Chanukah is, as Ner Shabbos is, still it's not. It's just say more pashut. If there was a shalom bayis, that should be, nice, good atmosphere in the house. It's not a good atmosphere in the house if you had to sew the clothes on your back. That's going to be depressing. That's what he said. Okay. It's interesting. We finished within 7 days. Kind of reminds me of what the famous Kasha Beis Yosef. We should only keep Chanukah 7 days. 1 day wasn't a nace. But I'll tell you, the 8th day is a nace. It's a nace. On the 8th day, we should remember that was a nace, that we got all the shurim done in 7 shiurim. Okay. Very good. Okay. Alich Chanukah, everybody.